And in the 8th century, this whole area was conquered by Muslims from Spain. And Charlemagne worked his way south to recapture lands for Christianity. And he finally came to this fort, and the person in the fort, the commander, was a Muslim. His name was Murat. And he held out a big siege. They had no food. And finally, an eagle came down to the Gave here. Gave means mountain torrent, and this one is the Gave de Po. It's usually called the Gave for short. But an eagle picked up a trout out of the river and took it up and dropped it inside the fort. Now Murat, being clever, said, "We'll offer that to the Christians so that they'll know that we have food here. We have enough food to share with them." So once that happened, one of Charlemagne's generals, a man named Guillaume d'Orange, William of Orange, thought this might be an opportunity to get them to surrender. And so he went to Murat and said, "Would you surrender?" Murat said, "I've sworn to the Caliph of Cordova in Spain that I cannot surrender to a living human being." So Guillaume d'Orange said, "I've got an idea." And he took one of what are known as the Black Madonnas, and this was Notre Dame de Puy, kind of an icon and a statue. And he brought this, and Murat surrendered to Our Lady in the form of this statue. Murat was baptized, and he took the name Lourdes, L-O-R-U-S, and from that, Lourdes gets its name. That's why Lourdes is called Lourdes. So 800 today. Well, let me take you up to 1858. And Lourdes itself, in 1858, was a village on the other side of this fort. In this area, there was almost nothing. The area where the basilica is that we'll go in tomorrow and Sunday was a small swampy island called the Ile de Châtelet. And up here, just about there, you can see a millstone up here that's still there, was a mill, and it was powered by water. And so the Gave goes this way. Now many people say, well, you know, Bernadette crossed the river. Well, she didn't cross that river. No one can cross that river. If you see it, you'd be down in Po in 15 minutes. It goes so fast. But what there was here was a mill run, or a small canal, and it went up right beside where the grotto is today and ended in a point. So when Bernadette woke up that morning, in February of 1858, they had no wood. She and her sister and her friends made a journey, and they came down the road by our hotel. They came across into this small peninsula up here, and it's crowded, but if you get up here, there's a brass plaque. You can see exactly where she stood. She saw the first apparition. And so they crossed and came up here. And this was an area where pigs were up here because they had nowhere to get off. It was easy, so you didn't have to fence them in. This big rock is called Massapiel, which literally means old mass, or Massapiel in the Lourdes language. And so what she did is girls went across to look for wood right by the grotto, and Bernadette, who suffered from asthma and she's not a very healthy child, she took off her shoes and was going to hop across the rocks on this little mill run and then came the vision of Our Lady. Today, all that's still in. There is actually still, it runs, you can see the stream. If you go over here to the river, you'll see the outpouring. They diverted it, but it's all underground to build this. Now, something you'll see this afternoon when we get to the Church of St. Bernadette, which is right over here. This church was built in 1988. And one of the things that you may have been to the grotto this morning, and certainly I strongly encourage that you go to the grotto sometime. We'll have Mass there as well. But sort of the epicenter of Lourdes is that statue in the niche there. But you have to know something, and that is Bernadette hated that statue. She absolutely said it did not look like the Blessed Virgin that she saw. And the people at the time, once they accepted the fact that Our Lady had an appearance here, they sort of ignored Bernadette, and they went to a man named Joseph Fabiche from Lyon. She tried to describe how she saw the Blessed Virgin, and this, basically the sculptor made a traditional statue of Our Lady, kind of ignored what Bernadette said. So she was never happy with the statue. And when she got into the convent there, the Mother Superior said, well, suppose I show you pictures of Our Lady. Do you think you could maybe one that looks like her? So they went through book after book. Nothing happened. And finally, there's an icon called Our Lady of Cambrai, and it's sort of an icon. It's not very realistic, and Bernadette was in shock. She said, that's it. That is what Our Lady looks like. When you get into the church here in St. Bernadette, you will see that icon off to the left, where they have it today. Bernadette wanted that icon to be placed in his niche, but people ignored her, as I say. Many people ask why Bernadette is not buried here. There's not a shrine to her. And Bernadette insisted that she not be buried here because she did not want to get in the way of us as pilgrims and our devotion to Our Lady. She thought that would be a distraction. And so when she died of tuberculosis in the 1870s, she was buried. And when she began the process of canonization, as canon law requires, her body was exhumed and found to be intact. And today it sits in a glass case, relatively perfectly preserved. The first church built here, straight up, was the crypt, the middle church, while Bernadette was still alive, and she named it the dedication of that crypt. That's the last she ever saw of this place. The basilica, which you see the towers rising, was built after that, and then thirdly, the basilica of the Rosary, which we had Mass in last night. Now you'll see here lots of statues, and notable among them are Saint Remy and Saint Martin, Saint Martin. Now, as our confrere Chef Abel likes to say, this is sort of like brandy, Remy Martin. Does anybody know who Saint Remy is, what he's famous for? Anybody French? Well, in Latin his name is Saint Remigius, and he was the bishop that baptized the first Christian king of France, Clovis I, in the 400s. And so he, along with Saint Dionysius, better known in French as Saint Denis, Saint Denis, are the patron saints of France, along with Joan of Arc. Saint Martin was the son of a Roman soldier born in Hungary, and his father named him Martinus after Mars, the god of war. He came to become Bishop of Tours in France. And he's very famous for his episode with a beggar, where there was this naked beggar, and St. Martin split his cloak and gave it to the beggar to keep him warm. Now that cloak, kind of bringing all this together back to Charlemagne, 400 years later, Charlemagne came in possession of this cloak, and he wanted to preserve it in a way that gave it due honor. And so he created a beautiful church in a place called Aix-la-Chapelle, or Aachen, Germany, the same place, which was Charlemagne's capital. And the word for cloak in Latin is capella. And so this church became known as La Chapelle, or chapel. And from that we get the word chapel, and from that we get the word chaplains. So all that comes from St. Martin's cloak. I will point out also, up at the top here on the left, a statue of our patron saint, the Order of Malta, St. John the Baptist. Other saints you'll see around, St. Roche, St. Vincent de Paul, St. Bernard, and others. So when you walk around, you can see these. I will also commend to you the chapel, the reconciliation.